In this section I'm going to look at change management in ComplyPro. From my home screen you can see two separate requirement change buttons, if you like. Here we've got a top-down change, i.e. change to our sponsor or user or client requirements, and here we've got bottom-up change, i.e. change to our design requirements. I'm going to look at the top-down change first, so I click in on requirement change at this level, and what it gives me is, once again I'll switch across to an above-below view for this example. What it gives me is a log of changes with the ability to insert new changes by right-clicking and inserting a requirement change after, just like this, and then the ability to fill in the detail of this, the required change, or whatever that is, as an explanation for the detail of that change. We've got a workflow here so that we can propose this change, and I'll follow through that workflow in a minute. We've got an automatically populated last modified by and on. That will fill out on save. We've got the ability to link against an external source document here. The reason for that is if you get, this is a client initiated or sponsor initiated change, so if that change request comes in via a manual process, so you've got a paper-based official change request, you can scan that in and store that on your document management system, and then you can link and create a reference link to that document on here, so that just like we've done here, so document 2 is linked against Thursday's second change, or in this case as well on the external requirements section it explains to you why it's saying DMS changed, but the DMS version in this case has been modified since it was linked against this change request. So if I now want to link against an external document, I just look at the All External Documents tab at the bottom. Okay, I can say let's just link against Doc 3, link to external document, and here we go, Doc 3 has been associated with this particular response to change request. The source obviously hasn't been changed in this case. It was explained as being before because the ComplyPro version that was known about was 2.4, but the brought in DMS version was obviously newer, so it's flagged that there's a newer version and that the DMS version has changed from the ComplyPro version. That's more likely to happen with specifications as opposed to changes, but there we go, it's the same principle. So now if I want to specify in here against my new required change, if I look at the full sponsor requirement set, and let me scroll through here, I'll find a random, a 45 will do. If I right click on this and link to this particular requirement, then I can follow through on here, and I can see in this case the traceability through from sponsor requirement, which I've just linked to, and indeed here's the full linked sponsor requirement. I can also then see the direct children, its SRS item that would directly be impacted if I was to change this sponsor item. In this case there's only a single SRS item below the sponsor requirement and a single design item below the SRS item. It wouldn't necessarily be the case if I look further up. I may see some examples, here we go, where for example one sponsor requirement has got 2 child SRS items. In this case there are as yet no designs beneath the SRS items, so there could be 5 designs beneath one SRS item here. But this is essentially what this is showing you is a single screen with the traceability and impact analysis for if I was to make a change to this set of sponsor requirements, then as you see I can link 2 or more sponsor requirements against a particular change request, and then it will flag through to me the line of impact through the SRS and into the design through the traceable impact analysis. So that's the top-down change management. If I go back through my home page now and I look at the bottom-up in fact, change process, then looking on here we've got another log, looks very similar to the one before, and the process is the same, so I don't need to take you through creating a new one here. I'll explain an existing one. So if I look at, for example, which one should we do? Let's have a look at this one here. So I've linked this against 01.8, and if I look at the linked DP items, I can see here is the design item that I'm proposing to change, and this is the reason for why I want to change it. So it's got a workflow here. We explained that before, so I can propose this or withdraw it. Once it's been proposed, then it can then be taken by the change manager from proposed to either accepted or rejected. If it does get to the accepted stage, then ultimately it can then be incorporated into the design if necessary. And obviously the different users of different roles, from the change manager to the design package manager to the SRS manager to whoever's involved at this point, or in your setup who is required to be of that role of person to be able to move in from that stage of workflow to the next. System will obviously lock down to make sure only the right people can progress these statuses from one stage to another. So let's have a quick look at the impact analysis then. So this is slightly different to the top-down change impact we just looked at. Here we have a single design item which we're proposing to change, or multiple design items that we're proposing to change as part of this change requirement. So I can then see, going the other way, bottom up, as we've explained, the mid-level, the SRS items of impact. So these are the direct parents to our design item we're proposing to change. I can then also see the top level, the parents of these, so it's grandparents, the two sponsor items, there happens to be two in this case, which are essentially the grandparents of this design item. But we've got two other items of consideration on here. We can see its brother and sister requirements, i.e. the ones from shared parents. So SRS 8 and SRS 11 are the parents of 1.8, but I can see here that its brothers and sisters are also 1.1 and 1.11. They are the other children of these SRS parents. So they're at the same level as this design, they're design items, but they have a mutually shared parent. So we may want to consider those if we're going to change this particular design item. Lastly on here, it's also bringing through to us for our analysis any link to interface requirement associations that, like the old CCTV camera turning to see the door, when a door alarm goes off, that sort of scenario. We've got an interface requirement there tying requirements together to achieve that interface. So 1.8 is partnered with 1.1 in order to achieve an interface. So we may want to consider the impact to that interface should we think about changing this requirement. So here's our full impact analysis for our consideration to help us to decide what we do with this change, how much might it cost, how much work would be involved, what would any rework be required, all that sort of stuff. But it brings everything into one screen so that we can follow this through logically. Thanks very much.